my name is Samantha Hanlon, and today I will be peer reviewing for Sadie Griggs' Narrative Portfolio Part 1. Overall, the artist generally has a concise idea and theme going along throughout her images. In most narrative photography, the idea of it is to tell a story to the audience through the images, which I believe the artist has done in this portfolio. Most of the images show a clear theme and idea in the storyline the artist wishes to convey. In these images, the artist has also effectively used the elements and principles of design to compose the images. Most of the images play off of light, such as this one. This image plays off the light of outside where it is all dark and shows how late it is in the library. In contrast, the idea of the light walls and the darkness within this sort of plays as a contrast and shows how lonely and empty the library feels. In other images, such as this one, it creates a hyper-real and interesting idea for the audience. This image plays off the contrast of shape and color, as this right here is much darker and more vibrant than this right here. And the shapes also tend to be blurred, like this chair back here is sort of blurred. And it kind of gives an interesting hyper-real setting for the audience to look at. Another images that appear to be hyper-real is this one. The person almost looks as if they're sleeping, maybe tired, overwhelmed, but as the artist takes away the color of the image, it starts to feel more lonely and hyper-real. This image is interesting because it almost seems as if it's an X-ray, but it's very interesting because obviously it's not an X-ray and it draws the attention of the audience. However, as these images are very hyper-real, there are also images like the ones down here that don't appear to be hyper-real and don't really add as much to the story as the other ones. With these images, it might be a strong focal point for the artist to start working from there and making them look more hyper-real to add to these great images up here. The point of hyperrealism sort of shows the images as a dream or fantasy, and they are important in working with narrative photography. In this image, the artist is starting to try to tell her story. The person seems to be drained, tired, and over the schoolwork. The black and white background also adds this because it sort of seems more dark and more contrasting. Overall, it seems the artist is trying to tell a story about the stressors in a student's life. In this image as well, the student seems to be very stressed out, very overwhelmed, and I think it adds a lot to the story as well. Within the portfolio, there are images which stand out as the best. For example, I really like the surrealism of the images I pointed out earlier to you. Another image that the artist has done a great job with is this one right here. Sorry, I had to find it. This image I really like because it's sort of blurry and it sort of gives off the idea that the story is about stress. So the image appears to be blurry, as stress can sometimes be a panic and worry, which is also, it's very movement and a lot of movement and fast pace in our lives. These images that I pointed out to you draw attention from the audience, as they are not typical images that we are used to seeing, which is important in narrative photography to draw our attention to and understand the story that the artist is trying to convey to us. However, there are other images that could use a bit of work. The images of the board are sort of distracting, as there are things going on right here that draw our attention to the board and sort of take away from the story. There are also images such as the computer screens, which have things going on the screens, which the audience may be more attracted to what's said on the screen rather than the idea that the artist is trying to convey through it. Another image that may need work is images such as this, where it sort of seems that the focal point is this desk, which it may be more helpful to focus on other things such as like humans in the images and images like these that tell more of a story. Overall, I really like these images because they tell the story more through the facial expressions, the gestures, and the body language. So it may be a good vocal point for the artist to start working with more body language and gestures through their human subjects to see more contrast and tell the story better. However, I think that the artist has had a strong starting point with this and is off to a good start overall.